Now that we've gone to Val Royeaux, by the power of story progression, Redcliffe is now open to us, which means we can go find the Mage Rebellion. This is the Hushed Whispers path. We would still need more power points to see the Templars, which is the Champions of the Just path, which makes it sound like the game is pretty much telling us to go to Redcliffe now. Considering the Templars' attitude at Val Royeaux and the invitation from Grand Enchanter Fiona there, that's exactly the case. But good in the game to allow you to pick more herbs and seal more rifts, if you ever wanted the other option. Cassandra falls out of the sky with her gray-brimmed fedora and a matching white hair piece, and we're off. We get some of that riveting BioWare monologue.
Mages and Templars. Mages and Templars.
And here it sounds like the sound effects weren't timed up properly, or maybe this was intentional.
Redcliffe Village should be just...
I want a constant watch on that damned thing. Sound the alarm at the first sign of demons. Watch out, traveler. The veil's rift.
Surprisingly, there's a rift at the entrance of Redcliffe Village, and we have to seal it.
What was that?
Well, it's a rift, and we've closed dozens of them just to get here for PowerPoints. Why are you so surprised?
We don't know what these rifts can do. That one appeared to alter the time around it.
Now, if you weren't paying attention to the game, or you were simply a mage or an archer and never got close to the enemies, there were these auras surrounding certain enemies that seemed to make you move slower. Regardless, this reaction by Green Hand Man seems quite out of place. The narrative should have given us a cutscene with a specific example of us experiencing some weird time distortion thing. You might also be thinking, but Smudboy, that's called foreshadowing. Well, it's certainly trying to be, but not quite. You see, foreshadowing has various components. They don't all have to work together, but without a lot of these elements, having reveals without trying to let your audience play along with your creativity makes for some pretty lame writing. It also defeats the purpose of providing clues to your audience if you're not doing a good job of it. Foreshadowing needs to provide a clue or hint at some sort of information about something peculiar. That's kind of true. It does make us wonder what just happened here. It may in fact lead to something else. These clues, hints, or information should imply something will in fact happen. Now, Green Hand here doesn't give us any clues or hints, or whether we should be seeing more riffs about this in the future, nor can we deduce these time riffs are going to be a trail of breadcrumbs. There's no evidence this has any bearing on a potential theme or conflict with our protagonist, so we're not sure where this is going, and there isn't that much info. We could speculate further riffs might have this effect, or other kinds of effects, but that's purely a gameplay thing and not a storytelling one. And that's so much the bare minimum. These are the ones I feel you need to be effective in foreshadowing. Move the story forward through some sort of revelation. This could be a character revelation, a plot revelation, doesn't really matter. And I wouldn't say the Green Hand's complete surprise would be revelation, nor is the story moving forward. Nothing's really progressed, aside from this rift being slightly different, and only because two characters said something about it. There should be a dramatic effect, like a sense of suspense or a tease. This is somewhat subjective, but I didn't fear for a character or particularly care that rifts have time dilation, and I doubt you did either. Foreshadowing can also mislead the audience, but how it does that also has to be justified. This is kind of normal for foreshadowing, as clues or hints are difficult to understand by their nature. But the plot is very simple here, and nothing's really being shown to us that is false. There's no ruse or lies from an antagonist. You go to Redcliffe, you talk to the person in charge of the Mage Rebellion. That's all we're doing here. We're not applying this new rift knowledge to a character or scene or event. It's just information. There's nothing complex to lead us one way or the other. And of course, my most important is plot development. But we find there is no plot development. Green Hand's hand does nothing different, doesn't feel any different, and there's zero internal conflict. He could have been sipping tea and biscuits with his own brimmed hat with purple hair, watching the whole thing, and he stubbed his bloodied toe on the table and said, "Now, what's all this magic these days?" And then collapsed and died from gangrene out of grief, and still, no plot development would have occurred. He's certainly curious, but he's not actively making that part of his motivation. And then things start getting weird.
Make her have mercy. It's over. Open the gates.
Oh, wait, that was my dialogue option. Weren't we supposed to say something? Did anyone check the timing of these dialogue events in this scene?
We've spread word the Inquisition was coming. But you should know that no one here was expecting us.
Okay, wait a second here, red shirt spy dude. How did you get past the invisible plot wall before we went to Val Royeaux? And why did you tell us no one's expecting us? How is that relevant to your reporting job? Did they actually say?
Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition!
And then they told you to tell us that? Did our reservation for a party of 4 at Lloyd's Tavern get cancelled?
No one. Not even Grand Enchanter Fiona.
If she was, she hasn't told anyone.
Okay, so here we have some intrigue where we're not sure what our meeting with Grand Enchanter Fiona at Val Royeaux was all about, considering that was the only promising conversation we had there. Either the game is trying to be subtle or trying to defeat itself. This could be a very good thing where suspense and intrigue are the common themes, or it could be very bad, with the writers just hodgepodging things together.
We've arranged use of the tavern for the negotiations.
Agents of the Inquisition, my apologies. Magister Alexius is in charge now, but hasn't yet arrived. He's expected shortly. You can speak with the former Grand Enchanter in the meantime.
Okay, so now we're going to go talk to Fiona. Why? If she's no longer in charge, what's the point? Why is the story reintroducing characters that we don't want to talk to? Anyway, let's go find out.
We should talk to the Grand Enchanter.
Yeah, thanks, Sunshine. Now, Redcliffe here looks a heck of a lot different from Dragon Age Origins Redcliffe, all thanks to Frostbite Engine's trees, no doubt. It's beautiful and walking around it is fine, but I have absolutely no sense of nostalgia. I can't remember any landmark aside from the inside of the Chantry, and although this is a much larger game than Dragon Age Origins, the environs of Redcliffe feel small. Comparatively, the maps certainly look the same, so maybe they did manage to make the lay of the land appear similar. But I'm quite certain things look a lot different. Aside from stonework, the removal of entire harbor buildings, and the creation and redesign of old and new buildings, I'm sure large concentrations of land masses composed of rock and earth don't move around that quickly, even after 10 years. But, Smudboy, it's a new game. Of course things are going to be different. Well, I don't really care. It would be like going back to Gregminster in Suikoden 2, and the entire city and layout of the palace looks totally different. Unless change is explained, artists should not take these creative liberties on pre-established art. Lore is very much information about the past, visual and literary, about the architecture, the lay of the land, pre-established facts, whatever. You do not fool around with these things, especially when you're screwing with a masterpiece. So anyway, we finally get to Lloyd's, which is now under new management in a brand new building and location, and it's called something else. Why this had to be in Redcliffe, I don't know. There's no reason the mages even had to be here. But anyway, we get to talk to another Fiona.
You must be mistaken. I haven't been to Val Royeaux since before the Conclave.
Okay, she's either lying in front of everyone to protect something, or someone dressed up and looked like Fiona, probably with magic, just to get us over here. But why? I mean, was there something special about the Templars we shouldn't have gone and checked out? We know the game was making it easier for us to go to Redcliffe by the number of power points needed for the Templars, and by fake Fiona telling us to come here compared to Lord Seeker Lucius going all Machiavellian on us. But what is going on here?
If it wasn't you who invited me here, who was it?
I don't know. Now that you say it, I feel strange.
Oh, don't worry, that's just the fangirl in you dying as you realize how crappy this storytelling is.
Allow me to introduce Magister Girion Alexius.
Okay, so there's this guy named Alexis who's in charge. Somehow he managed to negotiate protect the Southern mages right after the Conclave explosion by making them part of the Imperium. The mages have to serve these guys for 10 years, where they may or will probably end up being part of the Imperium's army. The Earl of Redcliffe has conveniently left his castle for some reason, and Fiona's not too happy about it. Yeah, things are kind of weird. So we're about to get talking, and then Felix collapses, and the meeting is over. Felix hands us a note saying,
Come to the Chantry. You are in danger.
What was this scene about? What is going on? Nothing happened. We can't negotiate, and someone's son collapsed. Okay.
We'll be careful, but we need to figure out what's going on here.
Yes, for the love of Dionysus, please someone tell me what's going on. So we go to the Chantry.
Good. You're finally here. Now help me close this, would you?
And we're fighting some demons and closing a rift. In a Chantry. Isn't this a big deal? Like, no one's freaking out over a rift in their holy sacred shrine? Didn't people come to the Chantry all this time for protection? And not only that, the Chantry looks completely different from 10 years ago. I guess they asked a bunch of stonemasons to completely change the interior. Because, is anything ever consistent in these games? And then we talked to this mage from Tevinter called Dorian, and apparently Alexius controlled time to get here. He did it through using the rifts, which can now slow down and speed stuff up. And, if you're thinking about this on the surface, this sounds like some ridiculous science fiction scenario. But in reality, this is actually not a horrible inclusion. At least the rifts have different properties to them, and we're learning about them as we go. It's kind of odd to have a magical, fantastical time machine power, but okay, they can go with this. Let's see how they do it, aside from inevitably casting their own script into the fire. Now, believe it or not, lots of fantasy writing has time travel, and sure, according to the lore of Dragon Age, they're breaking another of the cardinal rules of magic, which is teleportation. But hey, rules of time and space are changing. The magical dimensional rift in the sky is changing things for that. Okay, fine. Here's their chance to shine and not screw this up. Now, good luck with that, because you have to know how to tell a time travel story without resorting to the poor use of paradoxes or using a deus ex or any other form of tying plot threads together. It's kind of tough. But again, any idea in writing can work so long as it's done right. BioWare just doesn't have the best track record for that. So it turns out Alexius is part of a cult, and this cult is obsessed with you. We're not sure why, though. There's some speculation on what the mark is and what makes you special, that you survived the Conclave. That's all fine. Any focus on the protagonist is a good thing. And to have an entire extremist group, which is part of an entire country full of power-hungry mages who are obsessed with you, I think that's fine. Let's see where BioWare goes with this. This could actually work. But first we need to go pick some herbs. Hooray.